my ex would specifically tell me that I'm bipolar. And I didn't realize he was also telling his family I was bipolar.
Yes.
He was telling my family, he was
Yeah.
telling people at our son's school I was bipolar. I actually went to a psychiatrist because he made me feel like there was really something wrong with me. And I came home with 2 medications for bipolar disorder. I was on those for 17 years, 2 mood stabilizers. And so a lot of times when people are like, how did you stay so long? How did you endure all of that? I think it was because I was numbed. They just numbed me.
Hey, guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening in on Dana's incredible story about living with a narcissist throughout her entire life, from the time she was a small child and then marrying a narcissist and being with them for 30 years, and how her incredible climb out of that. I just hope that you'll stay and listen to the second part and get a real sense of this incredible woman's story. She's written a book and it's amazing, and she's about to publish 2 more. So, put on your seatbelt, listen in. And if you know anyone who's experiencing narcissistic abuse, or you want to learn more about it, even if you're in a relationship where you just feel just crappy, we dive into so much heavy stuff about relationships, about mental health, about how we are not serving children and those who are abused, and how people in relationships are not taken seriously, and how they are conditioned to believe that they're crazy and they don't get the help that they need, and they stay stuck in kind of like a Stockholm syndrome. So I really encourage you to listen. And if you know anybody who's having a struggle with anything like this, please send this to them. And I would ask again that you would like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really will help me a lot if you could just do that for me so I can do more things on YouTube. I know I have a ton of listeners. I have people who listen globally. I've heard that I'm about 5% globally, but you can't really see it on my YouTube channel. So I would love it if anyone who listens would just give a quick like, share, comment in YouTube. Join me on Instagram, Alison Answers. It's Alison with 1 L. I have all clips and all content, and I just would love to share life with you guys. Any comment you give, I'm always going to answer you. If there's certain topics you want me to talk about, just send me what you want me to speak about, and I will do that. Have a beautiful, beautiful and blessed day, and let's get back to the show. They used to say a long time ago, have a quarter in the shoe by the door. And, because they used to have payphones, have a quarter issue by the door, right? And one of the things I was in a bad relationship a very long time ago too. And one of the things that I did was I kept things in the trunk of my car, an extra change of clothing, money, a credit card, whatever it was, and snacks. That's not a joke. That's real.
It's not a joke. Money, it is real.
Put it in your trunk. No one's good. And even if they see it, they're not going to think much of it. They see some sneakers, whatever in there. It's like you want to know that it's just like in any emergency, like a fire, you're prepared before the emergency. And I just want to say one other thing. And I know that you could speak on this at length, that one of the things I tell people is that when we're trying to help someone to be strengthened enough to be able to leave, because anyone who's in listening, like when you were saying, Dana, I'm done. And I thought that was so astute, what you said to your publisher, because it makes so much sense. No, that is an actual real replica. That is a replica of what happens. That is a true story.
Right.
So if you have a friend who's in a bad relationship and they keep saying, I'm done and I'm going to leave, and then they don't leave them. A lot of women will be like, oh, I'm sick of it until you do something about it. She doesn't listen to me anymore. Don't be that friend. Honestly, that's not a good friend to have anyhow. But
Correct.
The truth is that I've always felt when a client comes in and they can't leave someone, I'm just there to, one day at a time, help to strengthen their inner person so that they are able to get there at some point. And then I say to them, don't have these reactions outside. Build in here, because then you'll eventually, it'll happen, you'll know, and then you'll be able to plan. You want to have a good plan. And even, I just want to say something to you. Suppose, because there's different behaviors in narcissism, it can just feel like crazy. Like I've had clients where they moved all the woman's clothing out of their bedroom, and they turned all the heat down and the lights down. And they would say things like, oh, this is like this because because this is how cold I feel in my heart. So you're going to experience it now. Like they're locked out of their bedroom. Or it could be, then if anything, you can't say anything to them because then they blame everyone else and they don't own anything.
No.
So just, could you give an example of like less serious things, like the kind of traits? Because sometimes women will feel crazy. Oh, it's not that bad for me. Right.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to speak to that real quick. Stop comparing people. I mean, I always tell, people always want to know even like red flags and all this stuff, or it's not that bad. Listen to your damn gut. Your gut, if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And I will grant you, something that might not make me feel right feels just fine for you. There are cultural differences. There are sometimes geographical differences, or, whatever. We're all different. We all come from different places, have different perspectives. I will grant that. But overall, if something doesn't feel right to you, stop trying to force it and justify it and excuse it and enable it, because you are just perpetuating the damn cycle, which I hate to say, because victims are going to, pounce on me for this, but I was one of you. And I'm going to say, in doing all those things, you are participating in the process. And it's a nasty, ugly thing to say, because none of us ever ask for what's done. But if you really didn't feel right about it, you'd get your butt out of there. So that's what I'll say about that. But so I talk about this in my book, and these were the things that like I got to the point where I could laugh at. So something did change in me when I had that like epiphany, that aha moment, like, oh my gosh, like it was in me all along. Like, he doesn't control me. He's not holding me down. I'm letting him control me. I'm letting him keep me here. I had to be careful, because if you are in a situation where you do feel unsafe, then yes, you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm out. Bye, Felicia. It doesn't happen that way. So, I mean, I wish it did, but doesn't always for all of us. So I had to kind of be very secretive and very careful in starting to prepare my escape and make sure my son was on board with this. So he sensed that, because here's the thing. Even if you're trying to come off as cool, just imagine anything. I always say it's kind of like if you're cool with somebody, but then somebody tells you something about that person, and you're like, now that you know it, it just completely changes your perspective about that person. And so even if you try to treat them the same, you're not treating them the same. You're treating them differently based on that new information. It's kind of the same thing when you come to that epiphany, when that deal breaker happens for you. You're trying to act like, you start acting awkward almost because you're different. You cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot get rid of what you have discovered. It's there, and it's guiding you unconsciously towards whatever steps you need to take to achieve whatever it is that's going to get you out of that situation. So his reaction, in any dynamic, we know if you change your behavior, the reaction's going to change. So here we are in this endless cycle, going in the same push and pull. Now I'm acting different. So now he was like, oh, crap, now I'm acting, he's acting different. I'm reacting different. Everything was askew. So everything changed, basically. Point is, he knew, he could tell I was really done. That was the done, ding dong, the witch is dead. We are done. So he actually left. I came home in the middle of the day and he was gone.
Wow.
Because in true narcissistic fashion, he couldn't be left. He couldn't have his wife file for divorce and feel the judgment or the gossip from people or whatever it was. He had to be the one to leave me so that he could go tell everybody that I was harassing him and I was so insufferable, and he had to leave, and he had to do it that way because there was no other way out. Basically everything that I felt, but he did it so that he could take that and avoid accountability for anything. So this is when it started getting funny. So my son was 16 years old at the time. So could I change the locks? Yeah, I could have changed the locks, but if my husband would have come to the door, my kid was going to let him in.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
I get it.
So there was no doing that. So we had a code on the door. There would have been no point changing that either, because again, if I would have locked him out, that's the night the crowbar was swung at my head, it was because I had locked him out. So I didn't want to invoke any anger or any aggression either. So while we were at work and school during the day, he was coming into the house. And I mean, I had the cameras after this, but I still could tell I had a Ring doorbell that could see him coming in and out, but it was little things, but they were comical later. So like the first thing was, I came home from work one day, my son was already home, and he goes, "Can you buy me new light bulbs for my bathroom?" And I'm like, light bulbs? Sure. Did they all go out? Like, you know how you have the light fixtures in your bathroom that have like 5 or 6 lights? Like, did they all just decide to go out at once? Like maybe it's a circuit breaker. He goes, "No, there's no bulbs in the fixture." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I go to his bathroom, all the bulbs are gone.
Yeah.
The next day, I went up to my bedroom and I flipped on the light, and there was no light. And I'm thinking about the bathroom bulbs, and I look up, not only are the bulbs missing, but the ceiling fan was going, and I never had it going. The little string to turn it off was missing. And I saw it on my nightstand. And I'm like, so he actually came in the house, dismounted the fixture to detach the string, remounted it. I mean, I don't even have words for this. This is like divorcing like a 5-year-old. Then we had a mouse in the kitchen that we ended up catching, but we're like, we didn't have mice like this before. What is going on? We ended up finding a drawer. It was the drawer where my ex, when he lived in the house, had kept like his keys and wallet and everything. There were acorns in there, all chewed up and eaten. He'd obviously come in the house and put them in there so that it would attract, this little rodent but it was so ridiculous. And then another thing I can remember is I came in and went to do laundry, and there was a pair of jeans in the washer, just one single pair of jeans. They were men's jeans, and he was a very simple blue collar kind of a guy, just were your basic Levi's. These were like, had the embellished pockets and, all snazzy, some of the, and I'm like, where the hell is he going that he's even wearing these? But why are they in my washer? Like, he doesn't live here anymore. Well, he put them in there to show me like he's moved on, and look at me, he's apparently going out. I don't know where he was wearing that stuff to where we live, but okay, fine. Like, I washed them, I folded them, and I put them on my porch because I was just like, this isn't going to happen anymore. And then the final thing I will share that probably amused me the most, because it's when I started playing back with him, because you get to the point where, if he wants to go this route, let's do it. Bring it on. He turned off the water to the toilet in the basement. And so I was like, you know what? That's fine. Could I go upstairs and use my son's toilet? Yeah, I could. But you know what? No, I was 93 pounds. He wanted to play this game. I went in the laundry room, went up on the sink, and I pissed in the damn laundry room sink. And then I bleached it and I was nice and I wiped it out so that I could. But you know what? You're not going to get me this way.
Yeah.
You're not going to run me out of my own damn house. I mean, it probably would have been easier to just turn the water back on, but I was pissed. So I pissed in the sink just to show him. So when he wanted to come put his pants back in the washer, he could smell my piss in the drain. And I'm sorry, that's crude and awful, but
Okay.
you know,
What's interesting? When it
Chuck
stands
made
out to
him
me-
effort.
it matched it. But you know what stands out to me is interesting is that it's that behavior is like, because I know a story of a narcissist taking a woman left, and he took one of every one of her shoes.
Oh my
Like
God.
one of them. So if you look at the nature of those things, yeah, they're childlike, but they're also they're crazy making. So
Yeah.
there's something about, gaslighting. There's something about creating an atmosphere where the person who the narcissist is with is kind of like feels crazy, like what's wrong with me?
Yes.
And I think that that's like such a common feeling, if you've already feel bad about yourself, and then someone is doing subtle little things that seemingly seem like, if you are, see, because I know that I came up as a person, and I still here and there struggle with it as a person, is I always feel like I'm doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Even though I know I'm successful, I'm not, I'm good to be, all the other things I know about myself.
I'm
I
with
have
you.
that edge there. Because if you're taught that if you just go the wrong way, somehow somebody's going to be mad at you,
Oh,
And
100%. I mean, in my life, I think people that don't understand me misread me because, like, I'll get people that say, you never call, you never text. Well, in my life, I was trained that I'm a bother and a burden. And when I have called mom at work, or when I called my ex-husband at work in the middle of the day, I was met with a lot of anger, and I was called names, and I was scolded. And so, no. So my people that really truly get me, they just know, like, just call me all day long. Like my husband now, he just calls me when he doesn't take offense that I don't call him. My friends that really are my true tribe, they don't take offense, that they understand. But, I want to talk about that, what you said about the crazy making too,
Yes.
because something that really impacted me about this marriage to this man. In my childhood, I was always made to feel like something was wrong with me 100%. And my mother and stepfather even went so far as to taking me to a counselor. And in fact, at one point, after the strangling incident, where I honestly thought they were going to kill me that night, child services didn't believe me because they put on this whole act of, we have this difficult daughter we don't know what to do with. They actually admitted me to a mental hospital. And that was a traumatic experience in itself that I will let one of my next books tell the story of. But in my marriage, again, he was always I don't know why they always want to tell you that you're crazy, because if you try to address a problem or address them on something they said or did that crossed the boundary with you, you're crazy. Either it didn't happen, or you're a jerk for bringing it up, and stop talking about the past. But it was always, you're crazy, or crazy, or crazy. But my ex would specifically tell me that I'm bipolar. And I didn't realize he was also telling his family I was bipolar. He was telling my family, he was telling people at our son's school I was bipolar. It got to the point where I try to be self-aware, but I'm like, am I? Like, maybe, because in my head, being not really familiar with, I guess the spectrum, for lack of better words, of what bipolar disorder can be versus what it really isn't, is I thought, well, when I get really depressed and upset because something happened, like I'm crying in fetal position in the corner, to hide away from my kid because I don't want him to see mommy like that. But then, I can go to like his sports or whatever and laugh with the other moms and joke. So I'm like, maybe I am up and down. I actually went to a psychiatrist because he made me feel like there was really something wrong with me. And I came home with 2 medications for bipolar disorder. I was on those for 17 years, 2 mood stabilizers. And so a lot of times when people are like, how did you stay so long? How did you endure all of that? I think it was because I was numbed, because I was on such high doses of them that I literally, like, I remember one of my friends, not that I had that many, but she said to me one day, you're so cold. Like, you don't even cry. Like, you don't even have feelings. And that's not who you are at all. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Here's me with my stone
Yeah.
face. I don't know what you're saying. Like, I
Yes.
have feelings. I cry, but
Mhm.
I didn't. I they just numbed me. But the sad part is that after I got out of that situation, after the marriage ended, and I have my yearly appointments with the psychiatrist, and at the very first one, he was like, "You're completely different. Like, what's going on?" I'm like, "Well, I got divorced and da da da, and everything's going great." And especially with bipolar disorder, just because somebody's going through a good, phase, so to speak, you don't want to just be like, "Oh, you're cured. You're just fine." So he didn't want to jump the gun, but at the same time, we talked more in depth. He knew I was in an unhappy marriage, but he hadn't realized the extent because I never let on. So
Yes.
after we talked about it, he was kind of like, I feel terrible, but he says, I don't know if you ever were
Yes.
bipolar. I
Yes.
think you were just a normal human being
Yes.
having reasonable reactions to the way you were being treated. But of course, you could still experience joy in life. Of course, you could still laugh and smile. But of course, you were also very sad and depressed and dejected, when things weren't going good. So he said, let's just back off of them maybe and see,
Yes.
because you just got divorced, you're selling your house, your kids graduate, like you got major life events going on. And 6 months later, we reconvened, and he's like, I feel terrible. But he says, based on what you told me though, and the way you were answering the questions, well, I was answering them based on what I was being told, based on what all these people in my life had been dictating to me. And yet here I am, haven't been on meds for a few years now, no meds at
Yes.
all.
Yes.
And I will say I am feeling everything. I mean,
Yes.
it's like a whole new world has opened up. And there are days where, like the other day where I just wasn't in the right headspace, because we all have those things that take us back and resurface once in a while. But it's sad for me to think that for so long I thought I really was bipolar. But I will stand here and also say, who cares? Even if I am bipolar now,
Right.
if the labels, people need to stop labeling
Yes.
themselves, because the label puts you in this box,
Yes.
and usually it's not a nice box.
Yes.
It's something that carries a stigma. So now you're adding shame to to the shame buffet you're already carrying for everybody. And
Yes.
it's not going to help you. So I stopped with the labels, the broken, the damage. I don't
Yes.
like to even call myself a victim.
Yep.
Yes, I was victimized,
Right.
but I am only a victim if I decide to be, and I am only broken and damaged if I decide to be. Now, I'm fully aware that after everything I went through, yeah, I had PTSD, major anxiety, super hyper vigilant. I mean, the slightest sound, if nobody's supposed to be
Yes.
around,
Of
I'm
course.
worried, because, yeah, of
Of
course.
course.
But I
Yeah.
have taken the responsibility to learn how to self-regulate.
Yeah.
And I realized that as much as people like me like to isolate because people hurt and you don't want to put
Mhm.
yourself in situations, and I'm never getting married again, and I'm not telling everyone to run out and get married, but
No,
having my
don't.
husband,
Yes.
kind of come into my life and say, okay, I know we've known each other a long time, but like I kind of feel like more than friends. And I was like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm good. Like, I've had my fair share. I need some time. I'm glad that I eventually did open up to him, because I realized that I mean, I could watch all kinds of videos, and I could have, all this therapy and have all these sheets of, when you're dysregulating, number one, stop and breathe 3 times. No, if you're not triggered, you're not going to practice those tools. And I'm going to tell you right
Exactly.
now,
Mhm.
nobody Nobody, I don't care how much therapy or how much you think you know, unless you're actually practicing those tools, you don't come right out and, hit a home run. It does
Hmm.
not work that way.
Nope.
There's a lot. I think the best thing to do, what I was told, was dip your toes in the water. Okay, now I got to go into this situation. I have social anxiety about, the people that are there or maybe where it's at. So I'm not going to stay the whole time. I'm going to drive separately
Hmm.
and try to make myself stay like 30 minutes. And maybe next
Hmm.
time I'll be around these people for
Yes.
an hour, but I'm not going to tolerate disrespect. I'm not going to tolerate mistreatment, but I'm not going to react to it either. I'm just going to excuse myself and say goodbye. But I got to take care of me. And once I learned that I could be there and that I was safe and it was okay, and I learned how to kind of deal with myself. And I'm going to tell people the biggest piece of advice I can give to you, if you are in a situation, um, this sort of goes back to answering a question you asked before about how did I, come out of the domestic violence and everything else. And it's only been 3 years and 4 months. And here we are. I think a lot of it just had to do with a simple question saying, what do I want? Because that question has been the key in, those moments where I was triggered or I felt a panic attack coming on because
Yes.
something, whether it was an emotional thing or something in my environment was, stimulating something from the past. What do I want? Just right in that moment. What do I
Yes.
want?
Hmm.
Because so many times people haven't asked us that. And the thing about it is, it doesn't have to be some revelation. Maybe if I'm in a panic mode and I'm feeling like I can't even put a thought together, my hands are starting to shake. What do I want? My husband is a safe place for me.
Yes.
Maybe I just need a hug from him. Like I need him to hold me.
Hmm.
And that's fine. And that'll calm me down. And actually, they do say, like, for me, hearing his heartbeat, because he's very tall and I'm short.
Hmm.
So when I lay my
Wow.
head on his chest, his heartbeat, you know, mind kind of calms to match it and my breath calms to match his. And I think, that's why it's soothing for babies to be held by their mothers. And, it does go back to these childlike things, but whatever it is, if you feel like you need a banana popsicle and that's going to make you stop crying, whatever. I mean, it works on a 3-year old. Like if that's what you want in that moment, do it.
Mhm.
Indulge yourself. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself be it. Stop being so damn hard on yourself. You don't have to be stoic and put on a stone face and take crap from people that they don't even deserve your time and energy. But you got to take care of you and just say, what do I want? Because if something is not resonating well with you, that is a sign that there's something there to be healed, and you got to figure that out. And I think you can figure it out real easy if you know what you need in that exact moment.
Hey, 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 guys, how are you? Isn't that amazing? This story that we're hearing on this show is great. I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book, and then I realized, how is that right? To keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. And that's really cool. Like the idea of, I tell people to keep your head, heart, and feet all in the same spot, because like all fear is future based. So if I just say, okay, where am I now? Am I safe now? Just look around, And like you were talking about this idea, what we practice, we become good at. So if you practice survival, if you practice, hypervigilance, all of those kinds of things, it's not like magical if you're outside of a relationship or the environment that you were in, that you were hypervigilant, that you're suddenly going to not be hypervigilant. That does not make any sense.
No.
So, and the way healing works is that it's progressive, it's incremental changes, left foot, right foot in the moment that I'm in. And like, just accepting ourselves, right? I mean, I'm still having to, I had a tragic experience because my husband died by suicide 2 years, 10 months ago, something like that. And
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he was the love of my life, I do have to say. But one of the, and he was my safe place, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that, you can feel on the days that you feel good. Oh, I want to just talk about the thing with you being bipolar. This is very important because I am so about this. Look, I own counseling centers, right? I'm supposed to be a mental health expert, blah, 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 blah. I have psychiatric nurse practitioners that work for me. I have like all these therapists who work for me. One of the things I am adamant about, we see every single solitary day people like this with their child. Could you fix this child? There's something wrong with them. I tell every therapist, you know what? There's never something wrong with the child.
Correct.
To me, they are the identified patient, and that's what we call them. They're identified by parents. Kids act right when they feel right. Simple. And the truth is that, so then we incrementally have to look, and then these kids, they're like, well, they have to go to a psych hospital. We have uncovered so many things that the kid is just, they get their emotional cues from their parents. So then when the kids act out, narcissistic parents will bring the kid and say they're acting like this, and this is the problem in the house. And it's not the problem in the house. They're just reacting to chaos. And so we're like on top of that. We do not,
Good.
And also we see that you cannot, and this happens often. We know something could be happening, that a kid is being abused, but we know if we immediately call, everything folds up. We can't even help that kid because they'll come and children are manipulated not to say anything, and children most often won't say anything, and then it's unfounded. And most people who come to check out kids to see if they're safe are not people who really get it. And it's and to me, like if we can be a voice of reason in that child, not a reason, a safe, solid voice in that child's life to get them to a place where we can actually have real data that's going to actually help them instead of like, watching our ass. Watch, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. But basically, like, we don't cover our ass at Lager Counseling Service. I won't do it at the expense of a child, never. Because then the child doesn't have us. And
I appreciate that, because that is the problem, is that, people need to understand, whether it's a child or an adult, it takes a lot for somebody to get to the point where they are actually going to divulge any little bit of what's really going on. And so if they do, and they're met, like for me, I thought, okay, this is my chance. I have waited forever. I've got the police, I've got child services, my school's involved.
Yes.
And nobody believed me, because there was already I always called them stories. My mother and stepfather it's like they huddled and came up with the plan before, like they were always a step ahead of me, and they already had the prepared story, and it was easier to believe them Because again, people are so quick to judge what they see from the outside. Oh, well, she wears nice clothes and, she lives in this house. And well, guess what? It happens in all income levels
Yeah.
and all status levels, if you can call
Yes.
it that. But even in high school, I remember I had a teacher, he saw through. He pulled me aside a few too many times and I knew he saw me. He saw really what was going on. And I started confiding in him. And then his wife would come and meet him for lunch. And so then I had the both of them. And I was so grateful to be able to have somebody to go to.
Yes.
Well, they bought me a little, I don't even remember. It was some kind of like little perfume, like teeny bopper perfume or something, for Christmas. And I came home with it. And I knew my mother and stepfather were like, they knew that there was some relationship going on there, but when they saw the gift, it turned into they were going to call the school and complain about this teacher. He's trying to get with you sexually and all this stuff. Now, if that was really happening, then I would say good for you for, err on the side of caution, but it wasn't that. They knew damn well that this was my safe person. This was somebody I was confiding in, somebody that knew the truth. And so they took that away from me. And, for somebody to have that taken away, or if they go to somebody and somebody shames them or ridicules them or doesn't believe them or invalidates them, whatever it is, how likely is it for that person?
It won't.
Will they ever go to anyone ever again? Usually not.
No.
And that's the biggest problem, is that we expect people to just, like you said before, like, oh, you got to leave. You should just do this. We're so quick to tell people. Guess what? I already knew all the reasons. I had one person in the middle of my first marriage that said, when are you going to leave this guy? This is ridiculous. Look at you. And, the problem is, it's like an alcoholic. Like, you could show them their newborn baby and say, do it for your new baby.
Yeah.
They don't care. They are addicted to that alcohol. And I think people do forget the neurological changes that happen when you're traumatized.
100%. Yes.
That's a whole other subject for a whole other show. And I'm not even a scientist, but, you can probably speak more to that. But people need to understand that there are actually chemical changes in our body. I've even read a study recently about that cortisol that made me sick, that can actually be passed through to a fetus. And my mother did go through an abusive childhood. She had an alcoholic father that put a gun to her head at one point. So it's like, maybe I was, addicted to this cortisol in a weird way, and addicted to the chaos. And then it was familiar. And so I just kept trending into these. I mean, there's so many things, but I think people think like you just should just see it for what it is and see it how they see it and just walk out. But it's not that easy. You are asking people to change the way their brain is operating and the chemical composition of their body, and go against their fear and everything telling them that they might not survive, and that's just not something anybody's willing to just up and do. It's just not realistic.
There's a, like one more kind of like comment about this, because what you're saying is so powerful and true. And I say this a lot, but I think it's always worth repeating. And you've probably heard it 1,000 times, and probably the listeners too, but we all need to hear it, that, we become chemically addicted to the feelings we feel the most. So I always ask people, what feelings did you feel the most in your childhood? And then what happens is that even when you try to move away from those feelings, so let's say you're in a great marriage like you are, right? Then our body is going to pull us toward this homeostasis. And this kind of a scripting in our body, also our thoughts, we have 90,000 thoughts a day, 91% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday. So we keep and they're an electrical impulse on a loop.
Yes.
So when those thoughts keep repeating, what ends up happening is that we just follow those same thoughts and repeat yesterday over and over again. And then people are mad that we're repeating it, but we don't know that we have to create different thoughts, different feelings that will be in they'll be like in opposition to what is natural to our body. So it's almost like a weird withdrawal. But this also happens in a relationship and in scripting. So relationships are scripted. I think relationships are scripted. So when we change our behavior in a relationship, the relationship will do a change back move, like your husband doing the thing to pull you back into the old behavior. So it's like anyone listening, I mean, we could like talk about this forever. I'm hoping that you're going to come back on my show. We could talk.
I would love to. I would love to, because there's so much even in what you just said, because that is something I've had to consciously do in my relationship with my husband now. I am settling down a lot, but it's taken a long time for me to understand that, because to me, conflict was love.
Yes.
And this man is like, he's the gentlest, quietest, most peaceful, forgiving natured man ever, which I need. But then it doesn't feel like love sometimes. So I got to start stuff up. And I'll never forget the first time. I don't even know what it was something about ketchup, and I was having a damn fit. It was stupid. Even I knew it was stupid, but I had to piss him off so that I felt love. And he just put his hand up on the wall and leaned and put his hand on his hip. And when I was done, he's like, "Are you done now?" And he's just started laughing at me. And I couldn't help but laugh either. But my brain I've had to kind of rewire my reaction. Instead of going down the road we've always gone, we got to go down that road less traveled. But it takes such conscious effort.
Yes.
And that's the only way that life is going to change for people.
You know, you think about that situation with your husband. Now I'm going to go again. I'm going to go another time.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So now that thing right there, you see, like that moment, it's like, and it ties into what you said before, like you're feeling this because, you know, that little girl, whatever that part of you that really needs love. So it's like, so even so, if somebody's not heightened, somebody's not, you know, we don't even know, like even stress or being late all the time. It's like an urgency, addicted to urgency, addicted to having a problem, like, you know, and it's like the thing with your husband, it's like in that moment, like you needed something, right?
Yes.
And that you probably didn't even realize you did what you wanted, some sort of a love or right.
Yeah.
Something
which I go right. And that's where I go back to what I've learned since then, which is just to stop and just say, "What do you want, Dana? What do you need right now?"
Yes. But
you know what? He smiled and he laughed. And then I laughed because I realized how dumb I was being. And I knew exactly what was happening. I just was kind of out of control. Like, you know, it's like a spinning top. I just couldn't stop it myself. But it stopped then. And then he hugged me and it was fine. Yeah. And so you just got to figure out what it is you need in that situation.
I've always felt, and I know that it's such a high level desire for me is I always want to be understood.
Yes.
You know, and I feel like, you know, if you feel like you're in trouble all the time and like someone just misunderstands what you're doing, and let's say just doesn't.
I've always had to explain myself. Yes. I feel the need. Yeah.
But having a husband who's like, no, you knew what you were doing with the ketchup. He knew. And to be understood is to be loved, I feel.
It really is.
You know, it really, really is, because you're seen, right?
Exactly.
Yes. So listen, we could go forever.
I know.
I want to be respectful cut it off here. Of your time. Yeah. So let me ask you, I want to know where everyone can find you, because I want everybody to get your book. But besides that, if there's anything else that you feel like you want to say to anyone who's just stuck, you know, and afraid or whatever, or anything you'd like to say to anyone, you know, I'd love for you to do that. And then tell us where everyone can find you.
Absolutely. There's a lot to say. There always is. But you know what? I think the one thing I've learned in life and that I've come to the conclusion of is that, you know, I wasn't enough for anybody. I wasn't ever enough. It took me 45 years, but once I got out of that not enough crap and I just got those people out of my life, cut it off. All of a sudden, with them out of the way, I saw all these people, and a lot of them had been there all along. I was just distracted with trying to get the approval of all these other people that I could never be enough for. But I was just right for these people. And so I stopped trying to prove myself, and I stopped trying to, seek that validation from other people. I just had to realize, like, we're all different, and we're all, entitled to love, and we're all worthy and deserving of whatever it is, that we want. And some people are going to see it and some aren't. But at the end of the day, you are you, I am me. We are all unique, and we are all beautiful in our own way. So do not let anybody make you feel like any less than what you are, because you are just perfectly fine exactly how you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's okay to be wrong,
It's okay. We all make mistakes. We're all human.
Yes.
We're not all going to make the best decisions. Yes. We're not all going to do the right thing all the time, but that's okay. That's part of the human experience, and that's part of learning. So, just embrace who you are and be that, and screw up and don't screw up sometimes, and just go and surround yourself with the people who are for you, not against you.
So, yes.
And yes, if anyone wants to find me, well, thank you. Yeah. There is a tribe out there for everybody. You just have to find those people. Yes. But come find me on Facebook and Instagram. You can go to my website as well, danasdiaz.com. The links for Facebook and Instagram are on there. There's more information about me. This podcast will be on there. And I do like to always tell people, if you do know somebody that you think might be in a situation that this sounds a little familiar, send them the link to this podcast. Just throw it in a text message to them and say, hey, this sounded really interesting. Thought you might be interested in listening to it. They can listen to it on the way to the grocery store, on the way to work, whatever. Even if they just catch the first 10 minutes, if we can reach somebody, that's the most important thing.
It really is. Really is. Yeah. Yeah. And just even like in a car, like if you're by yourself, and then you can just, take it off of your
exactly
that you've seen,
exactly,
and no one will know you ever listened to it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So I just want to thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor to get to know you more and your story. And your story is really going to help. It is helping so many people, and it'll just continue to do that. So I want to thank you for the sacrifice of your young life, your childhood, and your young adult and adult life, that really you've taken that and you're using it to invest in the loving of other human beings and yourself, of course. And I appreciate that. And I think that, that's my tribe, the people who take their, chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad. You know what I'm saying there?
There you go. Yeah. That's a good one. I always say I make lemonade out of lemons with a little vodka thrown in, but whatever works.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You know what? And you, what my daughter says, you're the sweetest melon in the patch.
Oh,
such a pleasure. And it is a wrap. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Alison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe, if you could, to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.